anybody's tried to follow the movement of customer relation management, customer experience management, trying to improve the quality of service in a big organisation, I think that Steve's actually cracked, if you want, the Holy Grail. He's figured out that it's not actually about the service, that if it's not about the systems, it's not about the processes. You have to get people's intent right to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and then empower them to deliver exceptional service. Ladies and gentlemen, could you welcome our second thought leader to stage, Stephen Pietro.
Hi, it's Stephen Pietro. Have you ever noticed that accountants often get it wrong? The way they get it wrong is that the way they measure revenue is that it doesn't help anyone in the organisation solve the problem of how do I increase my revenues? How do I improve my service? How do I get a team working closer together? So what I want to do is show you in this short snippet of my new keynote as to how you can double your revenue in 3 years. This is a formula which works for any company, whether you're a church or you're a charity, whether you're a consulting business, whether you're a speakers bureau. The problem with the way revenue is measured is that they look at it in terms of number of items sold times the price sold, and that gives you your total revenue. That doesn't help anybody understand what revenue is all about. Doesn't help anybody understand how do I actually get more of this stuff. Well, I'll tell you how you do it, and that's what my keynote's about. The way you do it is that you've got to break it up into 3 separate silos. The first one of those silos is quite simply the number of customers. How many customers do I have? The second thing to work on is how often do they come into my store or my website or my church? How often do they come in every year? And the third one is how much do they spend on average every single time they come in? Now, if you get the 3 of those and put them together, you're going to get the same answer as the accountants get. You're going to get total revenue. Now, the beauty of doing it this way is that you can now break it up. You can break it up into 3 separate silos. So rather than be challenged with, oh, you've got to increase sales by 20%, go off and do it. Well, what happens when that happens? People get together, they circle the wagons, they go off on their retreats, they set up reporting and training and feedback and monitoring systems, and they loop it all back. And I say, stop. There's a more precise and a gentler almost way to do this. Now the magic happens. I'd like you to think of one number, and that number is the number 8. If there's one thing that people walk away from my keynote, especially this new one, it's the number 8. In fact, 8%. I call it the rule of 8%. You see, the magic of that formula that I just gave you is that if you increase each one of those 3 silos by 8% every year, your sales are going to double in 3 years. Just 8% in each one. That's all you've got to do. So what I do with my keynote, what I do with people in a large crowd is I walk them through how this works. We take time to do a few little examples they can do on their own, and then we dig right into some of the strategies. So in the middle, we've got this formula. Around that, I then build a layer which I call the purpose. And that's why I call my website and everything I do, I call it Service with Purpose. So we've got the formula in the center, we overlay it with purpose, which is basically context. Why are we here? The second thing we look at is we overlay over the purpose is we overlay service. So what is service? We'll look at a definition of service. People can't even define service, and yet they're out there trying to make it better. So what does service mean? On top of that layer, we put some specific service strategies. And there are actually 75 of them that I put in my new ebook, which is about doubling your revenue. So we look at those 75 strategies and wrap them around. We also look at personality types, different types of people and how they interact with customers. So we lay this layer on layer on layer in the keynote. But within the keynote, it gets a little bit altered for the crowd. If it's an executive crowd, it's more into the center of purpose. If it's more of a managerial type crowd, we come more out to the strategies and managing people and serving customers. But it's always in and out of that core, which is an understanding of what revenue means. Now, what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about who I am and what I do. Some of you already know me. I'm actually a practitioner in mystery shopping. I founded a company about 7 years ago. We do tens of thousands of evaluations every year in different outlets, different retailers. We get to see what works. We get to see what doesn't work. And unfortunately, it's not a great story. And most companies fall over in the same areas. And they're really not that difficult to fix. So what I'm doing with this keynote is trying to unbundle it all, give it a little bit of context, and let people walk out understanding a little bit better about what's going on in the real world. They basically walk out with that rule of 8%. And from the 8%, they remember there are 3 parts to generating revenue. And all of that is service-centric. Every single one of those 3 has got a service equation. Have great fun doing it in the crowds, in the audiences. They get to muck around and do some exercises as well. We have some real life examples which are just hilarious and also really instructive, like a cab driver that upsold me 800%. Or my ex-neighbour Gemma, who happens to outsell all the professional salespeople in her real estate agency office just by sitting in the corner minding her own business. We have a ball doing it. I hope we can get together in front of your audience or in front of your client's audience. Again, my name is Stephen Pietro. You can get in touch with me on my website, servicewithpurpose.net. I hope we can get together. I'd love to get in front of your audience because I'm really having fun putting this out there and it's really resonating well. Thanks very much and have an awesome day.
Thank you.